Today's case is a tough one. The events took place in 2022 in Wisconsin, but the trial went on and on until April of this year, when a verdict was reached. On the one hand, we have Nicolae Miu, the main suspect. On the other hand, we have a group of people, mostly teenagers, who were injured by Miu under not-so-clear circumstances, which ultimately led to the demise of one of them.
17-year-old Isaac Schumann, when he was stabbed to death nearly 2 years ago, are expected to continue testifying tomorrow in the murder trial of Nicolae Miu, who's claiming self-defense.
Murder or self-defense? That's what the jury will have to decide in the case of Nicolae Miu. He's accused of killing 17-year-old Isaac Schumann and wounding 4 others during a float trip down the Apple River in 2022.
The key piece of evidence in this case is cell phone video that captured nearly the entire incident. Today, in opening statements, both sides used still images from that video to plead their case. Prosecutors saying that Miu's violence was senseless and horrific. The defense showing that Miu was outnumbered and surrounded when he was struck by members of these 2 groups.
Hey guys, welcome back to Crimeco, your go-to channel for some intriguing and incredible true crime stories. Before I continue with today's case, make sure to subscribe to our channel, hit the like button, and turn on the notifications. So buckle up and get ready to go on a wild ride with us. Nicolae Miu, age 54, is an immigrant who came to the States from Romania when he was a teenager, just about 15 or 16 years old. His father's desire for a better life for his family was the driving force behind their immigration to the U.S. When Nicolae's family arrived in the country, they were taken in as political refugees, and soon they found sanctuary in a Minnesota church. From a very young age, he seemed to be very smart, and throughout the years, he managed to master several languages. Besides Romanian, he also learned Russian in his early years, and by the time he arrived in the U.S. with his family, he was also fluent in French and Latin, and later on, he became fluent in his 5th language, English. While growing up, he developed a passion for fixing all kinds of things, and highly motivated by this ability, he decided to major in mechanical engineering in South Dakota. After college, he settled down in Prior Lake and lived a normal life with his wife, who goes by Sandy. It was his wife who really pressed down on Nicolae's peaceful nature. He was always friendly, very kind, and loved to help out his friends and neighbors with whatever they needed. She also stated that he was usually referred to as a handyman because he was a natural when it came to fixing things, although his health had been declining for a few years. In 2020, right in the midst of COVID, Nicolae had a heart attack that required him to get a quadruple bypass. He was bedridden for almost 4 weeks, and though he seemed to be fit for a man of his age, he still had some limitations due to his surgery. There were really no indicators in Nicolae's persona that could explain the events that occurred in Apple River in the summer of 2022. So let's go back to the day everything changed, not only for Nicolae, but for many other people. It was a hot summer day, late July 2022. Nicolae and some of his friends went down to Apple River in Wisconsin to spend the day. Tubing on that river is a popular pastime, and many friends and families gather to have a good time. So, everyone was having a blast until one of Nicolae's friends realized he had lost his phone. So he decided to help him out. Since they were tubbing, Nicolae thought that perhaps the phone was somewhere at the bottom of the river since that area is somewhat shallow and you can easily find small objects like glasses and jewelry. So he put his goggles and snorkel on to look for the phone. At one point, he dove right into the river, where a group of teenagers were in their tubes, and that's where everything went south. Before we continue, we'll explain the different groups that took part in the events. There are 3 groups of people involved. We have Nicolae's group, then the teenagers' group, and 1/3 group of adults who were close to where everything unfolded. One of the teenagers in the teens group decided to film the interaction they had with Nicolae, and the footage is quite disturbing. In the video, we can see Nicolae diving right into the teens' area while they're in their tubes, and then we can see how they began to insult and harass him, telling him that he was looking for little girls. Since the argument escalated, a woman from the other group who was close to the scene approached Nicolae and kind of pushed him, and that's when he hit her and all hell broke loose. Another teen pushed Nicolae into the water, and when he came out, he had his pocket knife in his hand and stabbed one of the teens who was in front of him. In this back and forth, Nicolae managed to injure 3 other people. By the time they realized what was happening, everyone started screaming and going away from Nicolae, screaming that that's not right. The footage is extremely hard to watch, and you can even see the teen who was stabbed first slowly bleeding out in the river. It was absolutely madness. The crowd quickly dispersed, and Nicolae just went away with his group. About an hour later, he was arrested by the local police and put in custody at the St. Croix County Jail. He was set on a $1 million bond and charged with 1 count of first-degree intentional homicide and 4 counts of attempted first-degree intentional homicide, together with 1 battery with the use of a dangerous weapon. The aftermath of that fateful day was devastating. 1 teen died and 4 injured victims: a 24-year-old woman from Burnsville, a 20-year-old and 22-year-old male from Luck, Wisconsin, and a 22-year-old male from Elk River. Their injuries range from serious to critical, with stab wounds to their torsos and chest areas. Fortunately, after getting medical attention, they were all in stable condition. After more than a year since that awful day, the trial began, and everyone involved seemed to be struggling to make sense of the timing and specifics of what transpired. The events of that day are hazy in everyone's memory, which led to several inconsistencies between what people actually saw and what they thought they saw. But the truth is that several of the witnesses don't actually remember things clearly because they were intoxicated at the time and told so when they took the stand. Nicolae's statements were also entangled, so the trial's atmosphere was always tense. But the thing is, although lots of people can agree on what happened, it's not always the truth. Sometimes people become so biased towards certain actions that they can only see what they want to see, what they could actually explain if asked to, for example. In the video, it's clearly visible that one of the women involved touched Nicolae first in order for him to get away, but it's pretty arguable if that counts as assault. After that, the statement that all the main witnesses gave is that Nicolae hit a girl, and that's when they pushed into the water. That moment is when Nicolae stated that he felt threatened and feared for his life. That's why, when he managed to get out of the water, he stabbed the first person he saw and continued to swing the knife, injuring others, too. We know why he dove right into the teen group, but we don't know why he decided to approach them the way he did. Nicolae had no business going at the young group like that, and the group had no business harassing him like that either. They both had the chance to back away, try to talk about it, and leave it as it was, like a bad misunderstanding. Yes, Nicolae was wrong for how he approached the group, but he's not wrong for defending himself after the harassment he got after it. The teens could have been the bigger person, could have been well-mannered, and could have handled the situation completely differently. After all, the only under 18 boy in the teen group was the victim, Isaac Schumann, who was 17 at the time of his demise. Everyone but Isaac was an adult by law, but their decision-making abilities were lacking. Instead, they took the opportunity to joke around and film a video that could possibly be uploaded to TikTok in order to get famous for calling out a pedophile who was just looking for a missing phone. On April 11th, 2024, Nicolae was found guilty of first-degree reckless homicide in the death of 17-year-old Isaac Schulman. He was also convicted of 4 counts of recklessly endangering safety and 1 count of battery. His sentence date is still to be determined. We strongly believe this was the perfect example of how self-defense can sometimes be misused and how everything can go terribly wrong when every circumstance is badly handled. Not only Nicolae should have been charged, but also the teenagers who failed to behave like proper grown-ups and own up to their decisions, which included leaving a friend bleeding out in the cold river while they were filming a video that could have potentially made them famous. Everyone was in the wrong, and everyone should have to pay for what they did, not only Nicolae. Thanks again for joining us in the story. Before you go, let us know what you think about this incredible case in the comment section. We'll see you again in the next one.